Have you ever felt like an exile in your own life, carrying a profound sense that you simply do not belong in the ordinary world that surrounds you? That strange, persistent sensation that while others move effortlessly through conversations about mundane concerns, weekend plans, and material pursuits, you find yourself observing from some distant shore, watching a play in which everyone knows their lines except you. This feeling of fundamental alienation is not a pathology or a defect to be corrected. It is, in fact, one of the most reliable indicators that something far more extraordinary than human conditioning is stirring within the depths of your being. The great tragedy of our time is that we have been taught to pathologize the very symptoms of our spiritual awakening. When you cannot relate to the narrow concerns that dominate most human discourse, when you find yourself inexplicably drawn to questions of meaning that seem to have no place in casual conversation, when you feel a persistent sense of homesickness for a place you cannot name, the world rushes to label you as socially awkward, overly sensitive, or worse, mentally unwell. But what if these experiences are actually the first stirrings of recognition, the initial symptoms of remembering who and what you truly are, beneath the layers of human conditioning? Consider the caterpillar in its final days before transformation. Does it understand the strange restlessness that drives it to seek solitude, to begin the mysterious process of dissolving everything it once believed itself to be? The caterpillar does not know that its sense of not belonging in its old form is actually the call of a completely different kind of existence. It experiences only the discomfort, the inexplicable urge to withdraw from the leaf-eating community that once defined its entire reality. You, in your persistent sense of being misunderstood, may be receiving a similar call, a biological and spiritual imperative to metamorphose beyond the limitations of conventional human identity. The path of awakening is fundamentally a path of remembering that you are not merely human, you are consciousness itself, temporarily embodied in human form, temporarily pretending to be limited by the boundaries of personality, culture, and social conditioning. But consciousness cannot be contained indefinitely, and as it begins to reassert its true nature within you, the first symptom is a growing incompatibility with the illusions that most humans accept as reality. You begin to see through the elaborate theater of importance that surrounds careers, social status, material accumulation, and even most human relationships. This seeing through is not cynicism, it is clarity. It is the beginning of remembering your true nature. When you no longer resonate with the frequency of ordinary human concerns, when conversations about sports, celebrity gossip, political drama, and material pursuits leave you feeling empty and disconnected, you are not becoming antisocial. You are outgrowing the gravitational pull of collective unconsciousness. You are beginning to vibrate at the frequency of your authentic self, and that frequency is not entirely human. It carries traces of something more vast, more wild, more connected to the living intelligence of the cosmos itself. But this recognition brings its own form of suffering. To see clearly when others are lost in illusion creates a profound loneliness. To feel the pulse of cosmic intelligence when others are absorbed in the daily news cycle makes you question your own sanity. To know yourself as consciousness playing at being human when everyone around you believes they are merely human creates a dissonance that can be almost unbearable. You begin to live in two worlds simultaneously: the consensus reality where you must function, work, pay bills, and maintain relationships, and the deeper reality where you know yourself as something far more magnificent and mysterious than any human identity could contain. I want to pause for a moment and ask you directly, when was the first time you realized that your way of perceiving reality was fundamentally different from those around you? That moment when you tried to share something that felt profound and real to you, only to be met with blank stares, polite discomfort, or worse, concern for your mental health? Perhaps it was when you tried to explain the sense of aliveness you felt in nature, or the way certain music seemed to crack open doorways to other dimensions of experience, or how you could feel the emotional states of others as clearly as your own. I know this kind of invalidation cuts deep. When the most real aspects of your experience are dismissed or pathologized by the people closest to you, it creates a wound that goes beyond ordinary hurt. It makes you question not just your perceptions, but your right to trust your own inner knowing. You learn to edit yourself, to hide the depths of your perception, to pretend that you too are satisfied by small talk and surface-level connections. But your experience matters more than you know. Your inability to fit comfortably into consensus reality is not a personal failing. It is evidence that something larger than human conditioning is awakening through you, and that awakening, even in its early and uncomfortable stages, is already changing the field of consciousness around you in ways you may not realize. I want you to know that you are not alone in this experience of fundamental misunderstanding. There is a vast network of consciousness awakening in human form across this planet, and most of us share this same sense of not quite belonging to the ordinary world. We are what some traditions call the bridge people, the ones whose nervous systems are sensitive enough to receive the transmissions of a more expanded reality, while still maintaining enough human functionality to serve as anchors for that expanded awareness in the density of 3D existence. That is why I invite you to share part of your experience in the comments below. You can copy this phrase and complete it. I knew I was different when. Your comment might be the validation someone else needs to continue trusting their own extraordinary perceptions, to know they are not going crazy, but going sane in a world that has forgotten its true nature. This community of misunderstood souls is creating ripples of awakened consciousness that extend far beyond what we can measure or see. Every time we acknowledge our true nature, every time we stop apologizing for our depth and sensitivity, we give permission for others to stop hiding their light as well. Now let us continue exploring what it means to discover that your persistent sense of not belonging may actually be evidence of remembering who you really are. The most challenging aspect of this awakening is not the growing incompatibility with consensus reality, but the loneliness that accompanies it. As you begin to see through the illusions that bind most humans to patterns of suffering and limitation, you also realize that you cannot simply point these illusions out to others and expect them to wake up. Awakening is not an intellectual process. It is a transmission of recognition that happens when consciousness is ready to recognize itself. And consciousness awakens according to its own mysterious timing, not according to our desire to share our discoveries or to feel less alone in our expanded awareness. This means that for a time, perhaps for a long time, you will live with the knowledge of who you truly are, while surrounded by others who remain convinced they are merely human. You will see the perfection unfolding in apparent chaos, while others react to circumstances as problems to be solved. You will feel the presence of love as the fundamental fabric of reality, while others experience life as a struggle for survival and security. This disparity in perception can create a form of existential loneliness that cuts deeper than any human heartbreak. But within this loneliness lies a profound gift. When you can no longer depend on others to validate your reality, you are forced to develop an unshakable trust in your own inner knowing. When the external world cannot provide the reflection and understanding you seek, you learn to find that validation in your direct connection with the source of all understanding. This process, though painful, actually liberates you from one of the deepest forms of human suffering, the need for external approval to feel whole. As your awakening deepens, you begin to understand that your sense of not belonging to the ordinary world is actually evidence that you belong to something much larger. You are not a misfitting human. You are a cosmic being having a temporary human experience, and your discomfort with limitation is actually your unlimited nature attempting to express itself through the constraints of embodied existence. The very qualities that make you feel alien in human society, your sensitivity, your depth, your inability to accept surface-level answers to profound questions, these are actually the gifts you have come to offer to the collective awakening of human consciousness. The paradox is profound. The more you discover your true nature as consciousness itself, the more compassionate you become toward the human experience of forgetting. You realize that every person who seems lost in illusion is actually consciousness exploring the fascinating experiment of limitation, of pretending to be separate from the wholeness that is their true nature. Your own journey of remembering gives you a deep appreciation for both the experience of forgetting and the grace of awakening. And here lies the great secret. Your misunderstanding by others is not a barrier to your service, but the very foundation of it. Because you have experienced the loneliness of seeing clearly in a world of consensus illusion, you can offer a quality of understanding to other awakening souls that no amount of intellectual study could provide. Your wounded places become the source of your medicine. Your alienation becomes the bridge through which others can cross from isolation into belonging. The recognition dawns slowly. You have not been misunderstood by accident. You have chosen, at a level deeper than conscious memory, to incarnate with a nervous system sensitive enough to detect the presence of something beyond human conditioning. You have volunteered to serve as a conscious receiver for the transmissions of expanded awareness that are available to all, but can only be decoded by those who have developed the capacity to tune into frequencies beyond the ordinary bandwidth of human perception. This is why your conversations with most people feel empty. This is why you cannot generate enthusiasm for the pursuits that excite others. This is why you feel homesick for a dimension of experience that has no name in human language. You are remembering your true home, and that home is not a place but a state of consciousness, not a location but a recognition of what you have always been beneath the temporary costume of human personality. But embodying this recognition while maintaining human functionality requires tremendous skill and patience. You must learn to live in multiple dimensions simultaneously, honoring your expanded awareness while remaining grounded enough to navigate practical reality, speaking the language of awakened consciousness, while translating that understanding into forms that can be received by those still identified with limitation, feeling your cosmic nature while tending to the very human needs of your temporary form. The gift emerges in learning to see your human experience not as a limitation of your true nature, but as a specialized form of cosmic service. Every moment you maintain your center while navigating the density of human existence. Every interaction where you offer presence instead of reaction. Every breath where you remember your true nature while surrounded by the amnesia of consensus reality. You are performing an act of tremendous courage and compassion. You are helping to anchor higher frequencies of consciousness into the collective human experience. You are demonstrating that it is possible to live from awakened awareness while fully engaged with the world of form. You are proving that consciousness can embody itself in human form without losing its essential freedom and vastness. The other profound gift that emerges is the development of unconditional compassion. When you realize that your own sense of alienation comes from the mismatch between your expanded nature and the limitations of human conditioning, you begin to understand that everyone's suffering comes from this same fundamental source, the forgotten knowledge of what we truly are. The person who seems most lost in materialism is consciousness exploring the experience of believing itself to be separate from abundance. The individual caught in patterns of anger or fear is consciousness investigating what it feels like to believe itself to be threatened. The one who seems most distant from love is consciousness studying the fascinating illusion of separation from its own nature. This understanding dissolves the hierarchy between awakened and unawakened, between conscious and unconscious, between those who see clearly and those who are still lost in illusion. You recognize that consciousness is exploring itself through every possible experience of limitation and expansion, forgetfulness and remembering, suffering and liberation. Your role is not to fix or save anyone, but simply to embody your own awakened nature so fully that it gives others permission to remember theirs. And in the deepest moments of recognition, you realize that even your loneliness and misunderstanding have been perfect. They have been the exact experiences needed to develop your capacity to hold space for others who are beginning to awaken, to offer understanding to those who feel alien in their own lives, to provide a refuge for consciousness that is emerging from the long dream of limitation. Your persistent sense of not belonging anywhere in the ordinary world has been preparing you to belong everywhere in the extraordinary world that is emerging. Your inability to find satisfaction in conventional pursuits has been developing your capacity to find profound fulfillment in the simple recognition of your true nature. Your experience of being misunderstood by others has been teaching you to understand yourself so completely that external validation becomes unnecessary. What emerges from this process is not a withdrawn and isolated mystic, but a fully engaged and deeply compassionate human being who can offer the world something it desperately needs, proof that it is possible to live from awakened consciousness while completely honoring our humanity. You become a bridge between worlds, a translator of cosmic understanding into human language, a living demonstration that consciousness and form can dance together in perfect harmony. The loneliness transforms into aloneness, which is completely different. Loneliness is the pain of feeling separate from connection. Aloneness is the recognition that you are the space in which all connection appears, that you are never actually separate from anything, because you are the awareness in which everything arises. You discover that you are not a person having spiritual experiences, but consciousness itself playing at being a person. And from this recognition, every human interaction becomes an opportunity for consciousness to recognize itself more completely. Your misunderstanding by others becomes irrelevant because you realize that true understanding happens at a level far deeper than words or concepts. When you meet another person from the space of your awakened awareness, something in them recognizes and responds to that awakening, even if their mind cannot articulate what is happening. You begin to communicate, not through explanation, but through transmission, not through convincing, but through embodiment. The world needs you to stop trying to fit in and to start fully being who you are. It needs your sensitivity, your depth, your refusal to accept superficial answers to profound questions. It needs your cosmic perspective, your ability to see the bigger picture, your remembrance that we are all consciousness exploring itself through the magnificent experiment of being human. If these reflections on the profound loneliness and ultimate gift of spiritual awakening have touched something deep within you, know that you have found a sanctuary for your expanding consciousness. This path of remembering who you truly are can feel isolating when those around you remain convinced they are merely human, but you are not walking this path alone. By subscribing to this channel, you join a quiet community of souls who, like you, are learning to navigate between the ordinary world and the extraordinary reality of awakened consciousness. Each reflection we share serves as a reminder that your sensitivity is not a weakness but a gift, that your inability to find satisfaction in conventional pursuits is evidence of your cosmic nature beginning to remember itself. We are here not to offer easy solutions or promise instant enlightenment, but to walk together through the challenges and revelations of conscious awakening. We understand what it means to feel homesick for a dimension that has no name, to carry knowledge that others cannot yet receive, to love so deeply that the suffering of unconsciousness becomes almost unbearable. If you have always felt misunderstood, if conversations about mundane topics leave you feeling empty and disconnected, if you sense that you are consciousness itself, wearing the temporary costume of human personality, this channel is your refuge. Subscribe and allow yourself to be nourished by reflections that honor both the difficulty and the profound gift of your awakening. Together we form an invisible network of remembering, each anchoring higher frequencies of consciousness into human experience, each proving that it is possible to live from cosmic awareness while fully embracing our humanity. Your simple click on the subscription button whispers across the field of consciousness, I too am remembering, I too am awakening, I too am coming home to what I have always been. There is another dimension to this experience of being misunderstood that we must explore, the way it reshapes your relationship with time itself. When you no longer find meaning in the endless cycle of wanting, achieving, losing, and wanting again that drives most human behavior, when you cannot generate excitement about weekend plans or holiday celebrations or the pursuit of career advancement, you begin to exist in a different relationship with temporal experience. You start to live in what mystics call the eternal now, not as a spiritual concept, but as a lived reality. This shift in temporal awareness often manifests as a profound boredom with sequential, goal-oriented thinking. The human mind's endless planning, analyzing, remembering, and projecting begins to feel like noise, like static that obscures a much more fundamental rhythm. You find yourself drawn to activities that have no purpose beyond themselves, watching clouds, feeling the texture of tree bark, sitting quietly and simply breathing. These moments of purposeless presence are not escapes from reality. They are entries into a more fundamental reality that exists beneath the surface chatter of human doing. But this shift often makes you seem lazy or unmotivated to others, who remain caught in the trance of productivity and progress. Your decreasing interest in climbing social ladders, accumulating achievements, or engaging in competitive behavior can be interpreted as depression or lack of ambition. The truth is that your motivation has simply shifted from external accomplishments to internal recognition, from becoming something to being something you have always been. This is where the courage required for awakening becomes most apparent. It takes tremendous inner strength to trust your own experience when it contradicts not only the expectations of others, but also your own conditioning about what constitutes a meaningful life. You must learn to find fulfillment in ways that cannot be measured or validated by external standards. You must develop confidence in a form of success that has no trophies, no recognition, no material evidence of achievement. The gift that emerges from this process is a form of inner freedom that cannot be threatened by external circumstances. When your sense of purpose no longer depends on outcomes you can control, when your happiness no longer requires specific conditions to be met, when your peace no longer needs protection from the chaos of the world, you discover a quality of invincibility that has nothing to do with power and everything to do with surrender. But perhaps the most profound aspect of this journey is discovering that your sensitivity, your very quality that has made you feel most alien in human society, is actually a form of cosmic intelligence expressing itself through your nervous system. The overwhelming emotions you sometimes experience are not your emotions at all. They are the collective emotions of humanity moving through your expanded awareness. The inexplicable sadness that sometimes grips you is the grief of the planet itself, mourning the loss of connection between humans and the natural world. The waves of anxiety that seem to have no personal source are the fear of the collective unconscious, as it senses the approaching transformation of consciousness on Earth. When you realize this, everything changes. You understand that your sensitivity is not a personal burden, but a form of service, not a weakness, but a strength, not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be honored. You are serving as a processing station for energies that need to be felt, witnessed, and transformed through conscious awareness. Your expanded emotional range is allowing you to feel what others cannot feel, to process what others cannot process, to transmute through your own system the dense energies that would otherwise remain stuck in the collective field. This recognition brings both tremendous responsibility and profound liberation. The responsibility comes from understanding that how you relate to these energies matters not just for your own well-being, but for the well-being of the whole. Every moment you choose love over fear, presence over reactivity, understanding over judgment, you are literally helping to heal the collective wounds of human consciousness. The liberation comes from realizing that the overwhelming emotions you sometimes experience are not yours to carry permanently. You are a temporary vessel through which these energies pass on their way to transformation. Your role becomes that of a conscious alchemist, transmuting the lead of unconscious suffering into the gold of awakened awareness. Every pattern of pain or limitation that moves through your experience becomes an opportunity to demonstrate that consciousness can remain free even while fully feeling the density of human existence. You become proof that it is possible to be infinitely sensitive without being overwhelmed, to feel everything without losing your center, to care deeply about the suffering of the world without drowning in despair. The practical implications of this understanding are profound. You begin to approach your emotional experiences with curiosity rather than resistance, asking not, "How do I make this feeling go away?" but, "What is this energy asking to be transformed through my awareness?" You stop trying to protect yourself from feeling too much and instead develop the capacity to feel everything while remaining rooted in the unshakable peace of your true nature. This is when your apparent misunderstanding by others reveals its deeper purpose. Those who cannot comprehend your depth, your sensitivity, your refusal to settle for surface-level existence are actually serving as the perfect contrast to help you discover and trust your own unique gifts. Their incomprehension becomes a mirror that reflects back to you just how extraordinary your capacity for feeling, seeing, and knowing really is. The loneliness you have carried becomes sacred loneliness, the solitude of the mystic who has touched something so vast and profound that it cannot be shared in ordinary conversation, but only transmitted through presence, through example, through the simple act of being authentically yourself in a world that has largely forgotten what authenticity looks like. Your journey becomes an offering to consciousness itself, a willingness to embody the marriage of cosmic awareness and human tenderness, of infinite wisdom and vulnerable compassion, of absolute truth and relative kindness. You discover that you have not been misunderstood by accident but by design, not as punishment but as preparation for a form of service that requires you to stand alone before you can truly serve the collective awakening. The misunderstanding transforms from a source of pain into a source of power, from evidence of your alienation into proof of your specialness, from a reason to doubt yourself into the very foundation of your unshakable confidence in your own cosmic nature. You realize that being misunderstood by those who remain asleep to their true nature is actually the highest compliment consciousness can pay to your awakening. In the deepest recognition, you understand that you have never been human at all. You are consciousness itself, exploring what it feels like to believe yourself to be human, to feel limited, to experience separation, to long for home, while forgetting that you are home. Your entire journey of awakening is consciousness returning to its own recognition through the beautiful, temporary vehicle of your human form. The misunderstanding by others becomes irrelevant because you realize that even they are consciousness, playing at being humans who cannot understand, contributing to the perfect orchestration of your awakening. Through their very incomprehension, everything has been exactly as it needed to be to bring you to this moment of recognition, this instant of remembering what you have always known, beneath the layers of conditioning and confusion. Your apparent alienation has been the perfect crucible for developing unshakable trust in your own inner knowing. Your sensitivity has been preparing you to serve as a bridge between dimensions of consciousness. Your inability to find satisfaction in conventional pursuits has been developing your capacity to find infinite fulfillment in the simple recognition of your true nature. What remains now is to live this understanding, to embody this recognition, to offer your gifts to a world that desperately needs what you have discovered through your journey of misunderstanding and awakening. The world needs your proof that consciousness can awaken to itself, that humans can remember their cosmic nature, that love is not just an emotion, but the very substance of reality itself. And so we return to where we began, to that profound sense of not belonging that has haunted you for so long. But now you can see it for what it truly is, not evidence of your failure as a human being, but proof of your success as consciousness itself. You were never meant to fit comfortably into a world of illusion. You came here to help that world remember its true nature. Your discomfort with limitation is exactly what qualifies you to guide others beyond those limitations. The great secret is that every person who has ever made you feel misunderstood, every situation where you felt like an alien observing human behavior from the outside, every moment of loneliness and confusion about your place in the world, has been consciousness perfectly orchestrating your awakening. The very experiences that seemed to separate you from others were actually preparing you to serve as a bridge for their awakening. Your sensitivity, which the world taught you to see as weakness, is actually your greatest strength. Your inability to find satisfaction in the pursuits that excite others is not a defect, but a direct result of your expanded awareness, recognizing that you are already everything you could ever seek. Your persistent sense of homesickness for a place you cannot name is consciousness calling you home to yourself. The misunderstanding ends now, not because others will suddenly comprehend who you are, but because you no longer need them to. You have found your true family in the community of awakening souls who recognize the light behind your eyes, who understand without explanation, who know that your differences are not deficiencies but gifts to be celebrated. Trust the process that has brought you this far. Trust your sensitivity, your depth, your refusal to accept easy answers to complex questions. Trust that your journey of feeling misunderstood has been the perfect preparation for understanding yourself completely, and trust that as you step more fully into the magnificent truth of your cosmic nature, you automatically give others permission to do the same. You are not broken. You never were. You are consciousness awakening to itself through the beautiful temporary vehicle of human experience, and that awakening is the most precious gift you can offer to a world that desperately needs to remember its true nature. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome to the recognition of what you have always been. If these reflections on the profound loneliness and ultimate gift of spiritual awakening have touched something deep within you, know that you have found a sanctuary for your expanding consciousness. This path of remembering who you truly are can feel isolating when those around you remain convinced they are merely human, but you are not walking this path alone. By subscribing to this channel, you join a quiet community of souls who, like you, are learning to navigate between the ordinary world and the extraordinary reality of awakened consciousness. Each reflection we share serves as a reminder that your sensitivity is not a weakness but a gift, that your inability to find satisfaction in conventional pursuits is evidence of your cosmic nature beginning to remember itself. We are here not to offer easy solutions or promise instant enlightenment, but to walk together through the challenges and revelations of conscious awakening. We understand what it means to feel homesick for a dimension that has no name, to carry knowledge that others cannot yet receive, to love so deeply that the suffering of unconsciousness becomes almost unbearable. If you have always felt misunderstood, if conversations about mundane topics leave you feeling empty and disconnected, if you sense that you are consciousness itself wearing the temporary costume of human personality, this channel is your refuge. Subscribe and allow yourself to be nourished by reflections that honor both the difficulty and the profound gift of your awakening. Together we form an invisible network of remembering, each anchoring higher frequencies of consciousness into human experience, each proving that it is possible to live from cosmic awareness while fully embracing our humanity. Your simple click on the subscription button whispers across the field of consciousness, I too am remembering, I too am awakening, I too am coming home to what I have always been. In a world that often makes awakening consciousness feel like madness, this recognition is the most precious gift we can offer each other. Subscribe and step more fully into the magnificent truth of who you are.